Good evening, salutations, my Days of Our Lives fans. So, let's talk about Bella and EJ. So, watch Friday, and they start making out. So, they're like at it. And Chad walks in and he's like, oh, um, I'm just gonna go. Bella's like, no, wait. We were just talking. Is that what the kids are calling it now? We were just, y'all deaf? Y'all needed to talk that close? So EJ comes in there, EJ's like, hey, he takes responsibility. He's like, listen, she's going through a rough time and I took advantage of the situation. He's very apologetic and, at some point, Chad does leave. He meets up with Abby. Now, Abby was talking to Kayla about having another baby. So they get together, and it's funny. Chad is pretty much just like, all right, let's. You want to hear some juicy gossip? They start talking about EJ and Bella kissing and everything like that. And Chad looked at the situation like I think that EJ is actually falling for her. Like he was very apologetic. He was very like gentleman like. He took responsibility. He said that he was taking advantage of her, and he fears that Bella. He feels that EJ is going to get hurt. Um, comes from his own experience with infidelity and everything like that. He feels that Bella is eventually going to get back with Sean, and EJ's going to be kind of out in the cold. Um, and at some point, they talk about baby and stuff like that, about how she wants to have another baby, and he's for it. They realize they know that they're a lot stronger now than they were before after the whole cheating with Gwen and everything like that, and they're in a really good place. So why not? Um, Of course, I don't feel like that's going to last because Gwen and Leo are pretty much talking about revenge, getting revenge on Abby. Now, they're talking about different plans, and they get to a point where, at first they talk about trying to find somebody to break those two up. And Gwen is like, that's not a good idea because they seem like they're a lot stronger. They're in a much better place than they were before. It doesn't seem like he's going to make the same mistake twice. Um, and at first, Leo's like, so what do you want to, you want to end them like permanently, like you want to delete them. Of course, he does ask about Gwen killing Laura, and like was it an accident, was it on purpose? And of course, she's like, oh, that's for me and Laura. That's between me and Laura, and like maybe you one day, whatever. I'm like, okay, whatever. So this is after Leo's so proud of talking about his revenge on Leo, thinking that they did the deed when they really didn't. Um, Meanwhile, he has no idea that at this point, when Will was talking to Sonny, they're talking about calling the cops. I mean, they're talking about getting him arrested. They go down to Sean, and Sean's like, listen, if you can um, get tested, prove that that drug is still in your system, he's like, yo, listen, I'd be more than happy to sit there and arrest him. So, I don't think, I really feel like once Leo got his revenge on Sonny, Sonny was going to be very docile and just kind of take it and panic and whatever, and not actually do anything. I'm like, bro, did you not actually account for the fact that he could call the cops? I'm assuming that at this point, whatever's in the system, whatever they're going to test for, they won't be able to sit there and find a trace of it in the system or whatever. Um, I have to believe that because he seemed like he was so many steps ahead of like Brady and Chloe and Chad and everyone else as far as them trying to ruin his wedding up until that point, ruin his thing with Craig. But eventually he did wind up slipping up, so I guess we'll find out. Now, of course, after Chad leaves, they both kind of, realize that they have an attraction for each other, but Bella's like, I don't want to go down that route. Being cheating on Sean again, and, my marriage is worth fighting for, and yada, yada, yada. And of course, EJ's like, yeah, well, I still want to be with Sammy, and she's still my Sammy, and yada, yada, yada. But of course, no one was buying that, especially after Bella left. He's sitting there, drinking, thinking about that kiss, so you know it's not over. Um, Now, of course, they kind of agreed to kind of put a kibosh on whatever they were planning on doing moving forward until they get a package from, well, Jan Spears. So it's a box of Bella's stuff that she got from their bedroom, like their wedding photo or whatever, like their wedding photo and stuff, and some other stuff. And so at this point, Bella is pissed. She goes down to the police station. And at first, Shawn is there thinking, oh, you're going to sit there and try to do something as far as keeping Jan Spears away from her child. And Bella's like, no, I'm not doing that at all. So she serves him with papers and he opens it up. And he just has this worried look on his face. And I'm like, yeah, bro, I already know what that is. But enjoy reading that. And he starts to pull it out a little bit. And he's like, are you divorcing me? What do you think? She's pissed. She's a lawyer. Like, you can't. I was gonna sit there and say you can't be this dumb, but well, you didn't tell Bella that you slept with Janet Spears. So at this point, your intelligence is questionable at best. Um, what do we got next? I'm forgetting two people. Oh yeah, Xander and Sarah. So she agrees to talk to him. They're in the cemetery, and she's like, I didn't exactly agree to. I'm sorry. Why are we here for? Is Mackenzie's gravesite. So they're talking, and at some point, she's happy that they left flowers for the baby, and just kind of just making sure that the grave is always remembered and people can always remember her. So she's happy about that. But then she's like, I don't know if I can forgive you. Now at this point, I'm sitting there thinking, all right, so this is a wrap. You might as well just kind of pack it up and like, all right, well, maybe she'll come around in time. And she really did come around in time because she got more of her memories back, of really forgiving him, of him actually grieving, as well as her, for that child. Even though that it wasn't biologically his child, besides Sarah, he was the first person to see that child. And, he formed a bond, how short it was, he still formed that bond. So, she appreciated that and she just remembered all of that. So she remembers, and then she calls because at this point, Zen is like, "Listen, why don't you just take some time? I'll just step over there, and you just take some time, and you can sit there and grieve Mickey or whatever." But then the memories come back, and long story short, she forgives him. And I'm kind of just looking at this whole thing, and I'm like, I think that this is probably the best that they can do as far as trying to fast track those two to be back together. Because when you really think about it, like the minute that Eric told Sarah about Mickey and everything like that, and Xander lying to her once again, it was like, yeah, this is kind of a done deal. But the fans really want them to be back together, so they're gonna sit there and give the fans what they want, but they gotta sit there and make it, I guess, somewhat of a challenge. It can't just be this instant thing. Like, when Sarah first came back, we were like, all right, cool. So she's going to be back together with Zen. And it was like, no, she's going to have a bunch of different personalities. And then she's going to be like, she's 5 or 10 or whatever. And then she's going to hate him for a while. And then in one episode, she's going to pretty much forgive him all over again. So in reality, I was actually happy. I know some people were like, that seems kind of rushed, but at the same time, it's like, this woman has been back for a hot minute, and let's just be honest, Gwen was a placeholder. Now, don't get me wrong, I felt like Gwen was a better choice for Xander than Sarah because Gwen accepted his flaws. She had flaws too. She's done terrible things. So in all retrospect, Gwen was a better choice for Xander than Sarah. Now, yeah, back in the day, Xander was a villain. This is put it that way. And although he changed his ways and became a better person thanks to Gwen, at the end of the day, you got to change for yourself. You can't change for someone else, otherwise, it's not going to stick, and it's disingenuous to both parties. But it is what it is, and now she's forgiven him, and in the same episode, they also had sex because, well, that was eventually going to happen. I feel like that's about it. I really do. It seemed like as I'm looking at the time of my review, as far as the clock or whatever, I was like, it seems pretty short, but it's also like seems like a lot really didn't happen. I mean, Will and Sonny just talked for a little bit about Leo, and at first, Will was making a bunch of inappropriate jokes, and then he got serious, and then they went to Sean, and then went to Sean, and then went to Kayla, and now eventually they're going to be probably want to going back to Sean, which is going to be heartbroken, but job's a job, and I guess we'll just wait and see what happens. But I feel like that's about it. I really do. So with that being said, I'm going to go. I want to thank you for watching. Be safe. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below, and I'll see you in the next video.